Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, welcome back to another video, and today it's that time of the year again. It's time to go over the latest EA investors call, gain some insights from Andrew Wilson, the CEO of EA, and other people over there at the studio as well. There were a lot of interesting questions asked by various investors about Battlefield. As you can imagine, just like us, they saw the announcement the other day about Battlefield Labs, so there's a lot of good information here about how EA are really gearing up to tackle the next Battlefield game. And really one of the most important things that is discussed is that Battlefield may actually be coming quite a lot later than I think all of us expected. So stay tuned for all of that. I'm going to break everything down in the video. As always, if you enjoy the content here on the channel, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on future content. And as always, thank you guys so much for your ongoing support. Really appreciate it. So let's begin here with some of the opening remarks from Andrew Wilson, the CEO. So he says, yesterday's announcement of Battlefield Labs is a key development in our ongoing expansion of massive online communities. Battlefield Labs is launching at a crucial moment in our development journey at a scale that allows us to test and refine the game with a community in a way that's unprecedented for Battlefield. This is about embracing a modern, more dynamic approach to development, one that acknowledges how the market has shifted, how player expectations have evolved. I'm not really sure they have that much, but we'll get to that. And how we show up for our players in ways to deliver a truly next level experience. This latest news from our teams is a crucial step towards Battlefield's release in fiscal year 2026. And to be clear, EA's fiscal year, so the fiscal year in this case of 2026, runs up until April of 2026. So again, it could be that the game doesn't release later this year. It could bleed into 2026, or maybe even beyond that. And there's going to be some more of that later on in the video, so I'll save that for a few minutes. One of the things I find it funny, though, that he says here is that this is about embracing how player expectations have evolved. And you see, like Andrew Wilson is an absolute master at sort of making the situation and their cock-up with Battlefield look as though it's really the community's fault, and they're doing their best to evolve with our expectations and make us happy. When in actuality, it was all, of course, as we know, their fault. I would say more EA's fault than DICE, to be honest with you. And our expectations have never really changed. I think all we're expecting is a solid, polished Battlefield game to be released. That's all we've ever wanted, is a Battlefield game that just stays true to its course, true to its roots, and delivers on what it promises. On the contrary, I feel like the gaming market is the one that just decides to evolve all by itself, you know, with the live service coming along. Maybe it's just me here, but I was perfectly happy paying with DLCs before that happened. So, yeah, anyway, I digress. Okay, so moving on to the Q&A here, which is really the juicy stuff. First of all, we have an analyst here, Andrew Marrock, and he asks, if I could maybe sneak in one more question really quick. Of course, it's still very early, but how has the community reception to the Battlefield Labs announcement been relative to your expectations or hopes? And how has the last couple of Battlefield releases informed this pre-launch cycle? It looks like you're bringing players along in a more meaningful fashion than usual. So Andrew answers this one. He says, yep, another great question. I would say the response to the playtest and the Battlefield Labs initiative has been overwhelmingly positive and well beyond our expectations, which is great. It's demonstrative of just the fan love out there for this story franchise. And I think he is correct there. I mean, I expected there to be a big reaction. This is the first news we get about the new Battlefield game, but I've seen queues of over 1 million people now waiting to queue up for Battlefield Labs. That is pretty bananas. So he continues here and says, there's really two big reasons why our team is taking this approach. The first is, as I think about it, there is some trepidation among the core community as to what this Battlefield will be. Yep, you got that right, mate. Battlefield is this incredible franchise at unbelievable scale with destruction and vehicles and all kinds of things, and is much loved in the community. The last two iterations of Battlefield have not resonated as strongly and have been found wanting by meaningful parts of the community globally. That's absolutely correct. And so we do appreciate and understand that there is some trepidation there. And this development team, the biggest development team we've ever had, is committed to working very closely with our players to ensure that they understand what we're doing. They feed into the tuning and balancing at scale of this game. The second reason is it is the biggest Battlefield we will ever build, or at least we have ever built to date. It exists on an incredible scale, both in terms of breadth and depth of gameplay, in terms of access points, in terms of what you can play with this game. And a big part of the modern development process that the team is taking is to test and tune everything to ensure that even as we launch something of this scale, it launches both stable and secure. And I think the combination of those two things is driving this initiative, which is Battlefield Labs. And the way the community has responded has been very positive to date. So there you go, straight from the horse's mouth, Andrew Wilson says this is to make sure that this launch will be safe and secure. So we can expect, at least according to him, a complete and finished game this time around. Okay, next question here is very interesting. This one is all about the timing of the release of Battlefield. So this one is from another analyst here, Chris Scholl, and he says, great, thank you, appreciate the update on the Battlefield timing. Seemingly, the industry pipeline could be crowded with a number of major titles being released this year. Can you just remind us of how the pipeline for your peers influences your willingness to launch titles in close proximity? And of course, what he's referring to here is there are a lot of big hitters coming out this year, and chief among them is Grand Theft Auto 6. Now, GTA 6 isn't anything like Battlefield. There's no reason that you can't play Grand Theft Auto 6 with Battlefield, but if you guys are anything like me, you kind of like to jump feet first into a big meaty game like that and really sink your teeth in. You know what I mean? You don't want to be splitting your time between two massive titles like that. And I think it's fair to say that not everybody, but almost everybody is going to be picking up GTA 6, and that certainly includes myself. So it's understandable that Battlefield maybe doesn't want to launch against a giant like that. Now, that being said, Rockstar haven't had an earnings call recently. I think they are due to have one pretty soon, and they may announce some sort of a release date or window for GTA 6. If they don't, though, they could easily delay GTA 6 as well, and that then could mean that Battlefield don't have to bother delaying their game. But anyway, this is what Andrew had to say on it. So, great question. Certainly, we exist in a competitive marketplace. I've had the great fortune of being in this company for 25 years, and we've done a great job of competing with all of our great franchises over time. That being said, we're invested more in this Battlefield than any Battlefield before. We have 4 studios, we've had a meaningful amount of time, we're looking for this to be the biggest Battlefield we've ever made, and we, of course, want to make sure that we launch that into a window where we can deliver on the fullness of the promise of what Battlefield can be, and grow the community to a level that is commensurate with the size of the game that we're making. So it sort of sounds like I don't think they're going to be satisfied with the Battlefield community size or player size that they had in past titles back in, let's call it, the heyday of Battlefield, like Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Bad Company 2, Battlefield 1, etc. They want to be like the next massive thing. That's what they're really going for. They want to be the next Call of Duty in terms of size and scale, you know, Marvel Rivals. They want multiple hundreds of thousands of players playing the game on day one, I think. Now he continues here saying, I do believe that this year might be a nuanced year relative to competition. There may be some things happening in the year that may cause us to think differently about our launch timing. We have a fiscal year 26 launch window that the team is targeting, which I went over earlier in the video, and we believe the game will be great and REIT at that time. I don't know what that even means. That's some sort of an acronym. So apparently REIT stands for Real Estate Investment Trusts. No idea what that's all about. That's way too much financial jargon for me. We're not going to dive into that because it's not really too relevant. But he says, if we got close to that time frame and believe that this wasn't going to be a great window for us, then we would take a look at what an alternate window might be that would give us the appropriate time, energy, and player acquisition opportunity for this Battlefield to be all that it needed to be. So basically, it's sounding like if they need to push it into the beginning of next year, they are able to do that. As I've already mentioned, the fiscal year of 2026 lines up with for EA, that's up until April next year. So they could always release it then. However, Battlefield games have typically released around October or November, or sometimes even as late as December, which is why we're expecting that sort of a window from them. So Battlefield 2042 released on the 19th of November, Battlefield 5 released on the 20th of November, Battlefield 1 October 21st, Battlefield Hardline, which was actually kind of a spin-off, that one came on March 17th. So that just goes to show, even though it was, made by Visceral Games and was not really what you'd call a mainline Battlefield title, it still came earlier in the year rather than later. BF4 October 29th, Battlefield 3 October 25th. You get the picture. That's sort of the time that DICE and EA like to release their Battlefield games. But it's also clear to me here that he sounds even prepared to go beyond April of next year. So who knows, maybe we could be looking at far more than a year waiting time for the next Battlefield game. If we're actually getting to test it and stuff like that and get some insights, as they've already mentioned, they are going to have regular updates showing us what they're doing with the Battlefield Labs testing. So even if you don't get the opportunity to test the game yourself, you're still going to get some inside information there. That's kind of cool. So we will have like some information and stuff going on about the game leading up to the launch. But I guess we can't really bank everything on an October or November release. So pretty interesting stuff there. There weren't actually too many buzzwords for Andrew Wilson, not as many as I expected. Of course, he still put his little spin on things to sort of make it sound like they're doing everything they can to cater to the community, and it's all kind of us, it's all us really getting flustered, and they're trying to do what they can to meet our expectations, whereas in actuality, our expectations are pretty normal, and it should be easy for them to meet them. Now, I'm not going to deny that gamers in general are quick to talk negatively about a game. They're quick to download a game, give it a negative review over on Steam. It really doesn't take very much at all in a lot of situations for that to happen. But it's been clear for years now what they need to do with Battlefield for it to succeed. Now, that being said, I do hope they do something innovative, something new and interesting with the game. I don't necessarily, like, as much as I love Battlefield 4, I don't really want to see just a complete reskin of that game, a redo of that game. I would like to see something new, and from the sounds of Andrew Wilson here, if he wants to capture that massive audience that he's obviously going for, he needs to bring back the old crowd, and it looks like they're really targeting us a lot. But they also need to bring in new players, and that's kind of where they've always fumbled. They've tried new things. They really haven't worked out, neither for the old crowd nor the new crowd, and it's ultimately failed. So what are they going to do this time around that's new and interesting and innovative and exciting to bring in new players that have maybe never even played Battlefield before? I honestly don't know. Of course, Ripple Effect are working on their own thing, which may or may not be Battle Royale or Portal 2.0. I guess we'll wait and see, but very exciting times ahead, to say the least. As always, guys, let me know what you think down below. I'd be interested to hear, like, when do you guys think the game is going to release? Do you think they're going to stick to that normal, regular release timing of October, November? Or are they going to push it into the beginning of next year in 2026? Or maybe even beyond that? Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed today's video. Always helps me out a bunch. Subscribe for more Battlefield, and I will see you all in the next one.